Well, it is indeed a privilege to be here. Thank you, Roy. It's been fun getting to know you, and I'm learning a different side of you a little bit, and I like that. The jokes and stuff. Look forward to more of that. It is important to know that my wife is a former Georgia cheerleader, because that tells you how smart I am. Honey, stand up if you would, please. Julianne is a success in her own right, and she is truly one of the nicest people you will ever meet in your life, and she is my best friend and partner, and it's a privilege to have her travel with me so often. It's a privilege to be here in this beautiful town again. It reminds me a lot of some of the cities and towns that I grew up in. I'm from Toccoa, Georgia. My dad's a Southern Baptist pastor and has been for 55 plus years. He and Mom are my heroes. And we lived in 5 or 6 towns, I forget, sometimes throughout northeast Georgia, from Livonia to Hartwell. I graduated from Hart County High School. Mom and Dad, in fact, live in Bogart now, just a little ways up the road. But it's always a privilege to be here. This is truly God's country here, and certainly a privilege to be here. Well, I am Gerry Purcell. I am running to be Georgia's next insurance commissioner. Congressman Bill, it's good to see you. I'm proud that this gentleman here is my congressman as well in the 9th district, and it's good to see you as well. I am running for one simple reason, and I have a passion about this, and that reason is I do not want to see or want to have the federal government making the decisions about who lives and dies in the next generation. And I'm talking specifically about the healthcare issue, and I want to share more with you about that because that's my passion. Just in the way of background, I mentioned that I'm from Toccoa. Couple of tidbits about me. I started my leadership career very early. I was the state president of the Vocational Industrial Clubs of America. It's now Skills USA. Went on to be the national president. It's one of the largest youth organizations in the country, actually in the world. About 300,000 members, and that was at the age of 17. And I say that's important. You have the Skills USA here in Walton County, so I'm proud to say that. But I say that because it's important because we need to win back our young people, particularly the 21 to 35-year-old age group. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how we can do that. But I think I have a gift in articulating some of the vision and the values that are important in winning that age group back. I went on to serve. I went to Troy College for a couple of years, and then I went on to serve in the U.S. military. I'm a former military intelligence officer. I served for 6 years, and I'm proud to say that I served under a real commander-in-chief, President Ronald Wilson Reagan. And in fact, I helped in 1984, I helped to run the campaign in Hawaii. I was the youth director for the state of Hawaii. If you remember your political history, Hawaii had never voted for a Republican president, ever. We went after 2 groups in a big way. The first group we went after were young people, as I mentioned earlier. And secondly, we went after hundreds of small business people. Not a lot of big businesses in Hawaii, as you might imagine. It's a small place. But we focused on those 2 groups, and we did something historic. We won the state of Hawaii for the first time for a Republican presidential candidate. Again, some of those same ways of communicating and articulating I hope to bring to this campaign to win that group of folks back into our party. You know, it's not our principles. Our principles are good. They're solid. They're based on a true foundation. It's the way we articulate it, and I think in many cases, our principles. And you know, I don't need a teleprompter to find the passion in my soul. We need more passion in the Republican Party. I don't need a teleprompter or a focus group, though, to form my words and to tell me what to say or what my convictions are going to be. That comes from down here deep. It comes from my mom and dad. It comes from the way I grew up in small town America. And I'm going to articulate those principles in a way that I hope people can understand. And you know, when it comes to hope, we hear a lot about hope, don't we? I'm not giving Barack Obama a franchise on hope, because the kind of hope that he's talking about is the kind of hope that is formulated by a focus group. And it's the kind of hope that creates a dependency, as the representative talked about. That's not the kind of hope that we want. The kind of hope that we want is a hope that's built on individual and family responsibility. It's the kind of hope that recognizes the value of community churches and ministries, thousands of them, across this state and across this land. And then it's the government, but last it's the government, not first. And so I'm not giving up on the principle of hope. We're going to talk about hope a lot, But it's that kind of hope. It's not focus group kind of hope, and it's not the hope of manipulation. So what I've been doing for the last few years, last 10 years actually, I own my own business. When I left the military, I helped to turn around 5 failing $1 million businesses, and within 12 months they were profitable. I also helped to launch a company that is now a $1 billion company. And I think it's a good idea that we have leaders in government that actually know how to read an income statement and a profit and loss statement, that actually know how to balance a budget, that actually know how to turn around a failing enterprise and make it a profitable enterprise. We need to apply those kinds of principles in government, don't we? And I'm going to apply that in the insurance department. There's 2 things particularly that I'll do right off the bat. The first one is every expense in that department, every single expense, I'm going to post online. So that I believe in accountability. And we talk about fiscal conservatism and we talk about accountability. That has to be the hallmark of what we believe. Not only what we believe, but doing what we say we believe. Because that's the essence of credibility, is to do what we say we're going to do. So I'm going to post every expense so every taxpayer can see how we're spending. Not my money, your money. That's the first thing. The second thing, I'm going to post my schedule so that you can see how, not only how we're spending your money, but how your insurance commissioner is spending his time and who he's talking with. I think you ought to know that. You ought to know what I'm doing during the day. And that way you don't have to worry about anybody whispering in my ear inappropriately or whatever. Any influence, undue, whatever, any of that. It's an aspect or a principle of accountability and transparency.